The CNN studio lights blazed hot as Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat across from Arizona's Kari Lake, both women locked in what was supposed to be a civilized political debate about immigration policy and border security. But the temperature in the studio seemed to rise with each passing minute as the two political powerhouses sparred over legislation statistics and voter concerns. What happened in the next 30 seconds would shatter every rule of political discourse and leave millions. A viewer stunned like the former Fox 10 Phoenix News anchor turned Trump-endorsed politician had been steadily losing ground in the debate for the past 20 minutes. She had thrown her usual arsenal of talking points at Crockett claims about border chaos, accusations of Democratic weakness, and attacks on Biden administration policies. But none of it was sticking her carefully rehearsed sound bites that usually dominated. Social media were failing to land with the studio audience, and Crockett's razor-sharp policy knowledge and command of legislative details was making Lake appear increasingly unprepared, and desperate frustration was written across Lake's face as her usual confident smirk faded, while Crockett dismantled her arguments with hard facts, budget numbers, and real-world policy outcomes. Lake's media training had prepared her for friendly Fox News interviews and supportive rally crowds, but she was clearly struggling against an opponent who had done her homework and came armed with receipts. Then Lake made a decision that would haunt her political career forever as she leaned forward with a cruel smile and said in a voice dripping with condescension, "Maybe if you spent less time on your appearance and more time actually reading the bills you vote on, Texas might have better representation." Even the camera operators stopped moving as their instincts told them they were witnessing something unprecedented. Makeup artists in the green room paused their work and turned to the monitors, drawn by the tension crackling through the air. Lake had just crossed a line that no serious politician crosses on national television. She had insulted a black congresswoman's appearance live on air, apparently believing her media experience and Trump endorsement would shield her from serious backlash. In the stunned silence, seasoned political observers exchanged knowing glances. They had seen countless debates, heated exchanges, and personal attacks. But this felt different. This was not political theater or strategic maneuvering. This was a fundamental miscalculation that could end careers and reshape narratives. Veteran journalists in the press section were already reaching for their phones, sensing they were about to witness either a complete political meltdown or the birth of a legendary comeback moment. But Jasmine Crockett was not about to let it slide. What she said next would not only destroy Lake's reputation, but also create one of the most viral political moments of the year, the kind that would be studied in political science classes and communication seminars for decades to come. Intense, and you will not want to miss a single devastating detail. The countdown had begun, and Kari Lake had absolutely no idea she was about to face the political fight of her life against someone who had spent years preparing for exactly this kind of moment. To understand why this confrontation was so explosive, you need to know exactly who these two women are and what brought them to this moment. A brilliant civil rights attorney from Dallas, Jasmine Crockett earned her law degree from the University of Houston Law Center, where she graduated magna cum laude and served as editor of the Law Review before entering politics. She built her reputation as a tenacious advocate, defending voting rights cases that reached the state Supreme Court and fighting high-profile police brutality cases that garnered national attention when she won her congressional seat in 2022, defeating a well-funded Republican incumbent. She became one of the youngest black women ever elected to represent Texas in the House of Representatives. Crockett did not come from political royalty or family wealth, a fact that shapes everything about how she approaches politics. She grew up in a working-class family in St. Louis, where her mother worked as a nurse and her father drove trucks. To support the family, she worked multiple jobs to pay her way through undergraduate studies at Rhodes College, then took out significant student loans to attend law school after graduation. She spent years in the legal trenches fighting for ordinary people who could not afford high-powered attorneys, often taking cases pro bono when justice demanded it. Her colleagues in both the legal profession and Congress describe her as whip-smart, thoroughly prepared, and absolutely fearless when it comes to calling out injustice regardless of who is responsible. In Congress, she has become known for her razor-sharp questioning during committee hearings, her ability to break down complex legal issues in ways that regular people can understand, and her talent for exposing hypocrisy with surgical precision. During her first year in office, she authored or co-sponsored over 40 pieces of legislation ranging from voting rights protections to healthcare expansion to criminal justice reform. Her committee work has been particularly impressive as she sits on the House Judiciary Committee, where her legal background allows her to dissect witnesses with the skill of a seasoned prosecutor. She has also become a social media sensation, with her clips from congressional hearings regularly going viral for their clarity, fire, and devastating effectiveness against unprepared witnesses. What many people do not realize is that Crockett's communication style was honed not just in courtrooms, but in some of the most hostile environments imaginable. She has argued cases before all-white juries in conservative Texas counties face down intimidation tactics from opposing counsel, and stood up to judges who clearly did not want to hear what she had to say. This background gave her an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure while systematically destroying her opponent's arguments. Her law school professors still talk about her legendary moot court performances, where she would take apart seasoned attorneys with nothing but preparation and intellectual precision. For over 2 decades, Kari Lake was a trusted face of Phoenix television news, building a career as a polished professional anchor who delivered breaking news with authority and charm. She anchored morning shows, evening broadcasts, and special coverage that made her a household name across Arizona. Her journalism career was marked by major story coverage, community involvement, and the kind of local celebrity status that opens doors in politics. But in 2021, she shocked the Arizona media landscape by abruptly leaving journalism to dive headfirst into Trump-style confrontational politics. Lake quickly became one of Trump's most vocal and aggressive supporters, fully embracing election denial claims and positioning herself as a fierce warrior against the fake news media. Ironically, the very industry that had made her famous and financially successful for decades. She ran for Arizona governor in 2022, losing a close race to Democrat Katie Hobbs, but refusing to concede, claiming without any credible evidence that the election was stolen through a complex conspiracy involving voting machines, poll workers, and election officials. Her political brand is built on being provocative and confrontational, never backing down from a fight, and always doubling down when challenged. She has mastered the art of the inflammatory soundbite and is unafraid to say things that other politicians will not, often pushing boundaries that would end other people's careers. Her supporters love her for telling it like it is and fighting the establishment, while her critics see her as a dangerous demagogue who spreads conspiracy theories and undermines democratic institutions. Lake's media background gives her a huge advantage. In Kari Lake's long history in television appearances had given her confidence that she knew exactly how to work the cameras, control timing, position herself for the best angles, and deliver lines that would grab attention and generate clips for social media. She understood lighting, pacing, and the rhythm of television in ways most politicians never mastered, having spent decades in front of cameras. She believed she could outmaneuver any opponent in a televised setting, but what she did not understand was that all her media training had prepared her for friendly interviews and supportive environments, not for intellectual combat with someone who had spent years dismantling arguments in hostile courtrooms. Her confidence in her television skills had made her overconfident about her ability to handle any opponent, regardless of their actual qualifications or preparation. This CNN debate was not happening in a vacuum. Both women represented much more than their own political careers. Crockett embodied the new generation of diverse Democratic leadership, young, brilliant, and unafraid to challenge the old ways, while Lake represented the Trump movement's attempt to normalize political behavior once considered unacceptable. The official topic, border security and immigration policy, had become one of the most toxic issues in American politics. Republicans like Lake were using increasingly harsh rhetoric, while Democrats like Crockett pushed back against what they saw as racist dog whistles and fear-mongering. But this debate had already moved far beyond policy. Personal attacks, interruptions, and heated exchanges had been building for 20 minutes, and the moderator had lost control multiple times. Both women were visibly frustrated. The tension in the studio thick enough to cut with a knife when Lake insulted Crockett's appearance. It was more than a personal jab. It was the kind of coded language black women in politics face, constantly implying vanity or unprofessionalism and playing into stereotypes that have been used to diminish their achievement for generations. What Lake did not realize was that she had just given Crockett the perfect opening to demonstrate why she was such a formidable force. The moment after Lake's insult landed, the energy in the studio shifted completely. Producers in the control room scrambled to adjust camera angles to capture every micro expression. Crockett's face did not change immediately. Her courtroom poker face firmly in place, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly, a signal to those who knew her that she was about to strike. Lake sat back with a satisfied smirk, convinced she had landed a devastating blow that would throw Crockett off balance, expecting an emotional outburst that would make her opponent look defensive. Anderson, Cooper, the moderator, attempted to steer things back to the issues, his voice tight with frustration, but Lake decided to double down, her tone turning sickly sweet, as she claimed that when she was in journalism, they focused on substance over style, suggesting Congress today was too focused on appearances. The carefully selected studio audience murmured uncomfortably. Crockett finally spoke, her voice calm and measured. Kari, I want to make sure I understand what you just said. Are you suggesting that my appearance somehow affects my ability to represent the people of Texas? Lake's smirk widened, thinking she had the upper hand. She replied that maybe elected officials should spend more time reading legislation and less time on other things. Crockett repeated, forcing Lake to make her implication explicit. Lake waved her hand dismissively and said that when someone spends so much time and money on hair, makeup, and clothes, it raises questions about priorities. The audience gasped. The attack had become fully explicit and unmistakably personal. Crockett nodded slowly. So you believe that my hair, my makeup, and my clothes mean I am not focused on my legislative responsibilities? I am just saying what a lot of people are thinking, Lake replied, still believing she had support. That was when Crockett's expression changed, a poker face replaced by a cold fury, but her voice remained controlled. Kari, I want to thank you for making something very clear to everyone watching tonight. You just demonstrated exactly the kind of disrespect black women face every single day in professional settings. Lake's smirk faltered as Crockett continued, you have decided that because I am a black woman who takes care of her appearance, I must be less serious about my job. You have reduced my law degree, my years as a civil rights attorney, and my work in Congress, the way I look. When Lake tried to interrupt, Crockett cut her off. No, Kari, you wait a minute. You want to talk about priorities? Let's talk about priorities. The entire studio was silent. Even the cameraman had frozen. Anderson, Cooper sat transfixed as Crockett leaned forward. My priority is representing the 760,000 people in Texas who sent me to Congress to fight for them. My priority is the Voting Rights Act that I have worked on since before I was elected. My priority is making sure working families can afford health care and that our children get a quality education. Lake opened her mouth, but Crockett raised her hand. I am not done. You want to know about my appearance, this hair that concerns you so much? These are my natural curls that I spent years learning to love because people like you told me they were not professional enough. This makeup I wear, because if I do not, people ask if I'm tired or sick, and then my appearance becomes a story instead of my work. The camera caught Lake's face as Crockett spoke, her confidence gone, replaced by the realization she was in serious trouble. Crockett pressed on. And these clothes that concern you so much, Kari, I buy them because I learned that if I dress casually, people question my professionalism. If I dress too formally, people say I am trying too hard. If I dress fashionably, people like you say I am focused on the wrong things. The audience was utterly silent as Crockett's words cut through the air, and the debate reached a point for which Lake could not recover.